Hi, I'm Peter Weller. Byzantium was an ancient Greek city-state founded around 600 BC, named after its king Byzantus. The sun never sets on the British Empire. I've heard those words all my life, ever since I was a kid, even though I've never lived in England, and that empire is long gone. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. Hi, I'm Peter Weller. And in 2001, I came here to the city of Florence to finish a master's degree in Italian Renaissance art history at Syracuse University in Florence. But going up against Persia, the world's greatest superpower of the time, would be no day at the beach for Themistocles. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. The day of glory has arrived. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. Welcome to Tunisia. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. The Macedonians were not considered real Greeks by the Hellenic city-states. They came from a tribe called the Macedoni, and they'd been fighting barbarians for so long that they were considered barbarians themselves. However, Philip II was no barbarian. Or if he was the most brilliant barbarian the world had ever seen. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. But how did an island, if you will, in the middle of the North Atlantic come to be such a behemoth empire? It is the most impacting epoch of the last millennium. It is the age of invention with Da Vinci and Copernicus and Gutenberg. But it is also the age of the cult of personality. It is the time when that unknown artisan or craftsman will become the artist. It is the time when that nameless builder will become the architect. You see, the good news about the civic development of ancient Greece was the city-state. Each of these city-states was sort of a self-contained, self-reliant mini-country within Greece. But the bad news about the civic development of ancient Greece was the city-state. I learned the Marseillaise, perhaps the world's most passionate national anthem, about 15 years ago when I decided to take some time off and come here to the streets of Paris and retrace the steps of the French Revolution. I come here to the Piazza del Campo once a year to witness that medieval harangue on horseback around here called Palio. Now, how did Hannibal get his men, not to mention all those elephants, up, over, around, or through these giant boulders? Well, according to the Roman historian Livy, he came up with an ingenious plan along with his engineers that would literally move mountains. They cut big crevices through these boulders, and then they got wood from the surrounding forest. They'd wrap these boulders in the wood, and when the wind was right, they'd torch the wood. The rocks would heat up, and just when they were hot enough, they'd pour boiling vinegar into the crevices, which would shatter or melt the rocks such that his men could break them apart with iron implements. Now, what was Hannibal doing up in the Alps with all this vinegar? Well, if this is true, and we like to think it was, otherwise how did he get across the Alps? It speaks volumes to the genius of this brilliant general. I'll tell you one thing, after navigating the snow of the Alps, the sight of the plains of northern Italy must have been very, very welcome. Now today, when we turn on a tap, we just take it for granted that H2O is going to come out. But the Sienese needed this fountain because when they were making all this loot, prosperity begets a city jam-packed with people. And more people demands, as we have seen with Persia, with Carthage, with Rome, with the Maya, more water. In the face of an onslaught of Vikings and Jutes and Angles and Saxons, some of those marauding and plundering people decided to stay. Maybe they liked the temperate climate. The pillar of Philip's military strategy was his combination of cavalry with infantry. And the pillar of his infantry was a formation called the phalanx. But did it really fall? Bad news is, to pay for this building, he went on a ballistic campaign of taxation, which was just as popular then as it probably would have been now. Along with the taxes, he tries to control or stamp out any form of pagan celebration, the study of the ancient philosophers at Athens, gambling, prostitution, adultery, homosexuality, any Christian that doesn't see it his way, and the Jews. He didn't have a lot of fans, but so what? He's an emperor. See that big old church behind me with that scaffolding on it? It's called Santa Maria del Fiore, otherwise known as the Duomo. This is the Cathedral of Paris, Notre Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris, dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It ain't bad, is it? Matter of fact, it's probably the world's most famous church. Scholars have debated for centuries whether or not Homer actually penned the Iliad and the Odyssey, or whether he just collected the folk tales of song, or whether he had anything to do with them at all. But if the ancient Greeks came back today, they'd scoff at this pithy harangue. Because of the ancient Greeks, Homer wasn't just some top 40s folk singer, nor was he the best-selling hack writer of some piece of pulp fiction. Homer was an historian. And these legends weren't the bedtime stories to be whispered to the kiddies before the oil lamps were blown out. These were accountable facts. Arnolfo intended for the church to have a dome, but he's dead, but he's dead, but he's dead. So the church stands for a whole bunch of decades without any dome on it at all. Finally, in the 1400s, it's left up to a guy wearing a real genius suit named Filippo Brunelleschi. The Blues and the Greens weren't like the Jets and the Sharks. They were factions that ran all the way from street thugs right up the political animal to the aristocracy. So when thousands and thousands of both Blues and Greens stormed the Hippodrome screaming, "Nika, Nika, win, win," against these horrible taxes, it would have been like both Republicans and Democrats storming the Super Bowl screaming about the same thing, which may not be a bad idea. Philip and his son Alexander, who's only 18 years old, defeat a coalition of Thebans and Athenians at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC. And then Philip does a remarkable thing. He lets all the Athenians go back home. Then he calls together a council at Corinth, invites all of the city-states. He's got to cloak his power in some sort of diplomacy. And he tells all the city-states, you can groove. It's all going to be the same as it was before. Philip didn't want to destroy Greece. He wanted to be Greece. He was like the nerd at the back of the class who wanted to join the frat party, become one of the cool guys, albeit a little bit tougher. When I was a kid, I heard the name Carthage, and I knew it was an ancient city. I didn't know exactly where it was. There's a saying that there are no straight lines in the Parthenon. I'm Peter Weller for the History Channel.